September 2008, Singapore Grand Prix. A Renault driver hits the wall at turn 17. The safety car comes out. Fernando Alonso, who had been running 15th, suddenly wins the race. 11 months later, the other driver tells the FIA it wasn't an accident. His team principal had ordered him to crash. On purpose, at a specific corner, on a specific lap. The evidence was overwhelming. Renault admitted everything. The team principal received a lifetime ban. Then a French court overturned it. He's back in Formula One today. This is the story of Crashgate, the most cynical piece of race manipulation in modern motorsport history, and what it tells us about the actual cost of cheating when you have enough money and lawyers. Singapore 2008 was supposed to be a statement race for Renault. They had Fernando Alonso, a two-time world champion, but the season had been brutal. McLaren and Ferrari were faster. BMW Sauber had more momentum. Renault hadn't won a race all year. Alonso crashed in qualifying and would start 15th on the grid. His teammate Nelson Piquet Jr. qualified 16th. Flavio Briatore, the team principal, was under pressure. Renault's title sponsor ING Bank had paid roughly $40 million for naming rights that season. A midfield finish in Singapore wouldn't justify that spend. The mathematics of Formula One sponsorship are unforgiving. Every position costs or generates approximately $2 million in media exposure per race weekend. Winning delivers an estimated $12 million in combined sponsor visibility, media coverage, and championship constructor points. Briatore understood this arithmetic better than most. He had built his career on leverage and PR. He'd managed Michael Schumacher early on, turned Benetton into a championship team, and brought Renault back to relevance with Alonso. But 2008 was slipping away. Singapore was a night race under floodlights, a new circuit, street course, high risk of safety cars. Briatore saw an opportunity. According to testimony later given to the FIA, he and chief engineer Pat Simons approached Piquet Jr. before the race and told him exactly what to do. Crash on lap 14, turn 17, make it look like a mistake. The safety car would deploy. Alonso, who would pit early on lap 12, would inherit track position. The field would bunch up. Alonso would lead after the restart. Piquet agreed. He was 23 years old, struggling to keep his seat, and his boss had just offered him a way to help the team. Lap 14, Piquet exits turn 17 at Marina Bay. He's running 18th, no other cars nearby. Telemetry later showed he applied full throttle in third gear on a part of the track where drivers normally short shift to fourth. The rear tires broke traction. He spun hard right into the concrete barrier. The engine cut. Marshals scrambled. Race control immediately deployed the safety car. The wreckage sat in a dangerous position. Marshals couldn't clear it quickly. The safety car stayed out for 6 laps. Every car on track had to slow to 80 kilometers per hour. Pit lane stayed open. Most teams called their drivers in, but Alonso had already pitted on lap 12, 2 laps before the crash. His fuel strategy had been unusually aggressive. Renault had loaded him with a light fuel load for the start, planning a very early stop. That decision only made sense if you knew a safety car was coming. When the safety car finally came in on lap 20, Alonso led the race. He had been 15th. Now he was first. He held position through the restart and managed the gap to Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton behind him. Alonso crossed the line 54 seconds ahead of Rosberg, his first win of 2008. Briatore was jubilant in the post-race interview. He called it a brilliant strategic gamble. Renault's PR team pushed the story hard. ING's logo appeared in every highlight reel. The marketing value of that single race win, according to later financial analysis by sponsorship consultancy Octagon, was approximately $12 million. Alonso had delivered exactly what Renault needed. Nobody suspected anything. The FIA reviewed the race data as routine. No flags were raised. The result stood. Nelson Piquet Jr. was dropped by Renault in July 2009. Officially for poor performance. He'd scored 0 points in the first half of the season. Briatore told the press that Piquet lacked the mental strength for Formula One. Piquet and his father, 3-time world champion Nelson Piquet Sr., were furious. In August 2009, they approached the FIA with a detailed accusation. The Singapore crash had been deliberate. Briatore had ordered it. Simmons had been in the room. Piquet provided meeting notes, radio transcripts, and a written timeline. The FIA opened a formal investigation on August 31st. Renault initially denied everything. They called the accusation baseless and vindictive. But the evidence was overwhelming. Telemetry logs showed Piquet's throttle input was inconsistent with a normal driving error. The fuel strategy made no sense without foreknowledge of a safety car. Simon's handwritten notes from the pre-race engineering meeting included a reference to an early pit stop for Alonso, with the phrase safety car window underlined. On September 16th, Renault withdrew its defense. The team issued a statement admitting that Briatore and Simmons had conspired to fix the race. They did not implicate Alonso. The FIA accepted that Alonso had no knowledge of the plan. On September 21st, the FIA World Motorsport Council delivered its ruling. Briatore received a lifetime ban from all FIA-sanctioned motorsport. Simmons received a 5-year ban. Renault received a 2-year suspended disqualification. If the team committed any further breach of sporting regulations before September 2011, they would be expelled from Formula One entirely. Piquet Jr. received full immunity as the whistleblower. The ban was immediate. Briatore was escorted out of the paddock the same day. His career in Formula One, which had spanned 3 decades and produced 7 world championships, was over. Flavio Briatore did not accept the ban. In October 2009, his legal team filed an appeal in French civil court, arguing that the FIA's disciplinary process had violated French labour law. Briatore had been employed by Renault under a French contract. The FIA's World Motorsport Council had not followed due process. Specifically, the tribunal had not allowed Briatore adequate time to prepare a defense, and FIA President Max Mosley had made public comments before the hearing that suggested bias. On January 5, 2010, the Tribunal de Grande Instance in Paris ruled in Briatore's favor. The court found that the FIA's lifetime ban was unreasonable and procedurally flawed. The ban was overturned. Briatore was free to return to motorsport. The FIA did not appeal. Mosley, who had led the investigation, stepped down as president later that year. Briatore never returned to a team principal role, but the ban's reversal allowed him to work as a commercial advisor and manager. He continued to represent drivers, including Mark Webber and Pastor Maldonado, and maintained close ties to the Renault brand. In 2024, Alpine F1 team, the successor to Renault F1, announced that Briatore would return as an executive advisor. 15 years after orchestrating Crashgate, he was back in the paddock. The FIA issued no objection. Pat Simmons served his 5-year ban in full. He returned to Formula One in 2013, joining Marussia as technical consultant, then moved to Williams as chief technical officer in 2014. He later became the FIA's own chief technical officer for Formula One, responsible for drafting the 2022 technical regulations. Piquet Jr. never raced in Formula One again. He moved to stock car racing in Brazil and won 3 national championships. He has given only 2 interviews about Crashgate. In both, he said he regretted agreeing to the plan but stood by his decision to expose it. How much did Crashgate actually cost? Start with Renault. The team avoided expulsion but suffered immediate commercial damage. ING Bank terminated its title sponsorship at the end of 2009, walking away from a contract worth $43 million annually. Renault's corporate parent considered shutting down the F1 program entirely. They sold a controlling stake to Genie Capital in 2010 and rebranded as Lotus Renault GP. The manufacturer returned as a full works team in 2016, but never recovered its early 2000s dominance. Briatore personally lost his team principal salary, estimated at $8 million per year, plus bonuses tied to constructor points. His lifetime ban, had it stood, would have cost him approximately $120 million in lost F1-related income over 15 years. The reversal cut that figure to 0. He retained his management company, his commercial partnerships, and his personal brand. Pat Simmons lost 5 years of income at senior technical director level, roughly $6 million total. He returned at a lower salary and rebuilt his reputation over a decade. The long-term cost to him was negligible. Nelson Piquet Jr. lost his Formula One career. He was 24 years old when dropped by Renault. Average F1 driver career earnings, assuming a midfield seat from age 24 to 32, would have been approximately $35 million. He recovered some of that in stock car racing, but not close to F1 figures. He was the only participant who paid a permanent price. Fernando Alonso kept the win, the points, and the $10 million performance bonus tied to race victories in his 2008 contract. The FIA found no evidence he knew about the conspiracy. He has never commented publicly beyond saying he trusted his team's strategy calls. The win stands in the official record. Crashgate established two things. First, that deliberate race manipulation could be proven and punished, even in a sport as opaque as Formula One. The FIA's investigation was unusually thorough. They subpoenaed telemetry, radio logs, and internal emails. They cross-referenced fuel loads with lap times. They deposed engineers and team staff under formal questioning. The evidence was forensic. That level of scrutiny had never been applied to a sporting fraud before. It set a standard. Second, that the consequences depend entirely on jurisdiction and legal resources. Briatore's ban lasted 4 months because he had the money and access to challenge it in French civil court. A team principal from a smaller outfit or a driver without a famous father would not have had that option. The FIA's internal disciplinary process has no external review mechanism. If you accept the ruling, it stands forever. If you can afford to challenge it in national court, you might win. That asymmetry is by design. Formula One's governance structure protects the commercial rights holder and the manufacturers, not the competitors. The FIA answers to no one except civil courts in specific jurisdictions. Crashgate proved that the system works only if you can't pay to escape it. The lesson for future teams was clear. If you cheat and get caught, the penalty depends on your legal budget, not the severity of the offense. Since 2009, the FIA has fined teams for technical breaches, budget cap violations, and sporting infractions. No individual has received a lifetime ban. In 2021, Red Bull Racing exceeded the budget cap by £1.6 million. The penalty was a 10% reduction in wind tunnel time and a $7 million fine. No personnel were sanctioned. In 2019, Ferrari used a fuel flow sensor workaround that the FIA could not definitively prove but strongly suspected. The team signed a confidential settlement. No penalty was published. The incentive structure is obvious. Cheat carefully, settle quietly, and the cost is a line item. Flavio Briatore is back in Formula One. Pat Simons helped write the current technical regulations. Fernando Alonso is still racing and still winning. Nelson Piquet Jr. races in Brazil and gives no interviews. The 2008 Singapore Grand Prix result has never been overturned. Crashgate was supposed to be the scandal that changed everything. It didn't. It proved that in Formula One, the cost of cheating is negotiable if you have the right lawyers and the right jurisdiction. A lifetime ban lasted 4 months. A $12 million fraud resulted in no financial penalty. The only person who lost a career was the one who exposed it. That's not a cautionary tale, it's a business model. If you want access to the full Crashgate vault, including the FIA's original decision document, Renault's internal timeline, and the French court ruling that overturned Briatore's ban, head to the link in the description. It's free, no email required, just the source material we used to build this story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.